So establishment politicians kind of suck, which I don't think is a very unpopular opinion. I think most people agree with me on that, which is why on the left anyway, we're starting to see democratic socialists begin to clean house against fringe neoliberals. Pretty recently in New York, we saw 3 Mamdani-endorsed congressional candidates, Darius Chevalier, Claire Valdez, and Brad Lander win seats. Against incumbents, by the way, and incumbents who are endorsed by Hakeem Jeffries. You know it's crazy when a mayor starts to have more influence than the House Minority Leader. And this is just the little political family that Mamdani is starting to cultivate. Obviously, a lot of the other people from the Bernie camp, like AOC, Maxwell Frost, are starting to make waves. I would say even a guy like James Tallarico out of Texas, who is a little bit more fringe liberal than some of the democratic socialists, is a pretty good step in the right direction for the left. Same thing in Michigan. You have a guy in Abdul El-Sayed who has ruffled a lot of feathers recently because he did affirm that he is not in fact a socialist and is a capitalist, but I still think he's a very good candidate and is definitely electable. And I already know someone's going to be like, oh, what about Graham Plattner? Yeah, well, okay, less said about that, the better. So as far as the GOP goes, what are they doing with their youth? Well, you have Congressman Brandon Gill, who is vehemently racist towards Muslims and is still very much an Israeli puppet, so, okay, there's him. And then you have Mike Lawler, who, funnily enough, is in New York, and called Zoran a disgrace for not marching in the Israeli festival. There's a pattern with these guys, isn't there? So it kind of seems like even the youth that the GOP does have in Congress and in the House of Representatives still isn't too much different from the establishment, the older guys. And you really look at the GOP outside of these guys, I mean, the median age for Republicans in the Senate is 64 and a half and 57 and a half in the House, so like, they're not exactly spring chickens. And yeah, I mean, most of these guys haven't really done much to oppose the establishment. Most of them fall under the Trump Make America Great Again wing of Republicans, which has been terrible, obviously. The only one I can think that has really been in opposition to all that is Thomas Massie. And even then, the GOP pumped like $20 quintillion into Ed Galliran's campaign just so Massie would lose. But you're starting to see what I mean, right? I think what's happening is the Democrats are starting to shift left because they understand that people are not happy with the current presidential administration and the fact that most Republicans are completely fine with it. So I think they understand that they are going to absolutely clean house come November. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind that Democrats are going to start to take over again, for better or worse. That's just how I see it. And I look at the GOP with what little youth they have and what few changes they've been willing to make, and honestly, I think the only guy that maybe has a chance at making them relevant again is James Fishback. I understand he's not the only young Republican elected official that doesn't necessarily love everything Trump is doing, but I think just as far as social media clout goes, as far as influence is going, he is going to be the biggest one that I think is going to be able to affect change. And don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily saying I love the guy. I know he's been accused of some crazy things. I know for a fact he has said some crazy things. I'm not at all jumping to defend him or tout him as like the second coming or anything. But I think his America First ideology, his populist policies, mixed with that classic conservatism that you expect of a Republican is going to be what takes him far. But even then, I feel like I'm going to have to say, but even then a lot of times in this video, even then he is still trailing huge against Byron Donalds right now. Because Byron Donalds, while he's not over 70 like a lot of the Republicans, he is still very much an institutional Republican. He's endorsed by Trump. He has a crazy amount of funding. He is so popular with boomers. And I know if you're one of James Fishback's supporters and you follow him on social media, you might have seen him post one of these polls by the Public Sentiment Institute. Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't buy any of these. I don't think there's any universe in which the Florida that literally has Israeli friendship towns is going to allow the guy that's endorsed by Trump to trail 3% against a literal groiper. They're either not reporting their data accurately or they literally just made these numbers up because, yeah, I don't buy it for 1 second. So this is all to illustrate the point that the fringe neoliberals are getting phased out. The left is becoming more extreme and they are going to overtake the GOP sooner than later. And I don't know if this is what the left necessarily believes or it's just my hunch. My diagnosis of this situation, I guess, is that I think the left is now realizing that they should have just gone with Bernie in 2016. And I think a lot of it has to do with the political litmus test that neoliberal fringe leaders have been failing, that people on the left are becoming hip to and starting to realize, hey, are these people even really left-leaning or do they kind of agree with Republicans in a lot of ways? I think a great example of this is John Fetterman. John Fetterman ran as a progressive, but as soon as he got in office, as soon as he became about the Israel issue, he started voting with Republicans on that almost every time. I mean, he is basically a Republican now. And the left is becoming hip to that. They're saying we don't want people like John Fetterman who aren't going to be true to their left-leaning values. We want people like Darius Chevalier who are going to stand up for pro-Palestinian advocacy. They're also not buying into the whole billionaires at the forefront deal that establishment liberals have for so long. I think that's a lot of the reasons Zoran Mamdani won over Cuomo. Basically, liberals are getting fed up with the establishment, and the GOP has nobody to blame for them now being able to express that. Trump has completely blown it for them. Trump and his cronies in the House of Representatives, and I think that's honestly for more reasons than just their political stances. I don't know if this is just me, but these new Democratic Socialists that are coming on have way more moxie and charisma than any Republicans in the House of Representatives right now. I mean, even the younger Republicans, you listen to Brandon Gill speak. Again, this is just me maybe, but the dude has the charisma of a washboard. He is so boring. And then some of these people are just genuinely contemptible. I mean, probably one of my least favorite politicians in U.S. history is Randy Fine of Florida. I mean, this fat scumbag is literally here telling people that Gazan children need to be starved or that we need to nuke Palestine. I mean, come on. I mean, even where I'm from in San Diego County, I can tell you about our board of supervisors where progressives have kind of taken over. They are a lot more charismatic than the two Republicans. I mean, you see Paloma Aguirre here. She seems expressive. She seems full of life. Now let's look at one of our Republicans, Joel Anderson. I mean, I don't like insulting people's looks, but the guy looks half dead. And I know that's kind of a symptom of age as well, but that's kind of my point. But aside from the charisma issue, which is maybe just a nitpicky thing from me, Republican voters are obviously becoming disaffected by the lack of change the GOP is willing to bring on. Which is why you've even had people like Nick Fuentes saying he thinks people who identify as groypers should either vote blue or just not vote at all come midterms. And I don't think the Republicans are seeing it for the issue it really is, but they will in November when the fire hits their ass and they start losing seats across America. And by that point, it'll be too late, because I can almost guarantee you, I would bet a sizable amount of money that come 2028, we are going to have another Democratic president. So maybe that isn't such a crazy prediction, but another thing I predict is that by that time, I think the GOP is also going to start to radicalize, and I honestly think they will start to move towards the America First, Nick Fuentes kind of movement. That might sound a little crazy, that might sound a little out of touch, that I think the GOP is going to start to rotate towards an internet native belief system, but here's my rationale. You have to understand that the majority of the Republican voter base is very old, okay? They're boomers. It's the reason that Byron Donalds is basically pitching a shutout against James Fishback right now. And in maybe the most controversial statement of this video yet, old people die a lot. I mean, it's kind of just something that happens. Old people die. And so when this older generation of voters who mainly vote for establishment politicians dies out, there's going to be a new generation of voters. And this new generation of voters is going to be comprised of people who are already kind of on board with the Groyper movement and people who haven't been happy with the Republican Party's ineffectiveness. And they're going to start doing kind of what the left is doing now and start to gravitate more towards populists like James Fishback, which is why I think even if he doesn't win the gubernatorial election this year, he's going to win some kind of elected office at some point. And I think kind of like what Mamdani's done, he's going to start to cultivate his own little political family. He's going to bring in younger Groyper-like Republicans, and they're going to start to bring in their own radical movement to the GOP. But then again, this is all assuming the Republican Party is ever smart enough to usher in any kind of change. Who knows? Maybe all those young Groypers are just going to run into a bunch of Ed Gallagher type plants. But yeah, that's basically the video. Let me know what you guys think, though. Do you guys think the Republican Party is going to be able to adjust and make some changes to appeal more to their voters before the midterms come? Or are you thinking what most people are thinking and the Democrats are just going to come in and smash them? I don't know. I'm not a political analyst. Anyway, I'm going to go watch my favorite informative news show, The Matan Evans Show. Bye-bye.